Hello everyone, a very good morning to you all and welcome to the south of Ireland where I'm coming to you from my hometown of Cork City. I'm Matthew Whyte, I'm an art historian with Zagram Expeditions, and I wanted to give you just a quick video this morning on this fantastic, impressive cathedral that's sitting behind me. This is one of the most beloved, one of the most important, and in my opinion one of the most impressive buildings in my hometown in Cork City. And it's called St Finbarr's Cathedral. And I'm sitting here on a very old site. I'm going to leave the cathedral hovering tantalisingly over my shoulder for just a second while I give you a very quick history of this site, because it's quite interesting, I think. The site that I'm actually sitting on here, or rather kneeling on, is dating back to the 7th century. It was founded as a religious site in and around 604 by St Finbarr, who is the patron saint of Cork City. And he founded here both a monastery and also a centre of learning. And in doing so, right back in the early Christian period, he began a very long, illustrious tradition of education here in Cork City. In our university, we still carry the motto, where Finbarr taught, let Munster learn. Munster is the province down here in the south of Ireland. So in the early Christian period, this site was one of great importance, which initiated a very important tradition. This building has undergone many different kind of renovations and many different life forms. So the original structure that was started by St Finbarr here in the 7th century stood until the 12th century, the monastery that is. And this was damaged, probably from disrepair, possibly from invading Normans in the 12th century. It was renovated, rebuilt, but then further damaged again in 1690 during the Siege of Cork. It was hit actually by a 24-pound cannon shot, which was fired from Elizabeth Fort. It's a fortification here in Cork City, which is just behind the building that you see behind me, not that far away. That 24-pound cannon ball, actually, interestingly, is exhibited today inside St Finbarr's Cathedral, inside the cathedral behind me. It was discovered during the building of this current structure in the 19th century. In the 1730s, after the round tower that was standing here was damaged by the cannon shot, there was another cathedral rebuilt, but it was known quite far and wide actually to not be very impressive, not be befitting of the city of Cork. It was called an apology of a cathedral that has long brought shame upon Cork City, and that's actually a quote from an architectural magazine from the 19th century. So it was decided by the Church of Ireland during the late 19th century that a new structure should be built here, one that would be impressive and one that would be befitting of the church. There was a competition held, and in 1863 the current structure was begun by William Burgess, a very internationally important Victorian artist and architect. And he chose the French Gothic style to build the new cathedral in. And it was a conspicuous choice, because the French Gothic style, first of all, it was stylish during the Victorian period, during the Gothic revival, but it also allowed the Church of Ireland, which was kind of battling against a resurgent Catholicism here in Ireland, to reassert its authority by harking back to the medieval age. The Gothic style began around the 12th century in France along the Camino Way, and by evoking the Gothic style in the 19th century, the Church of Ireland was able to claim a lineage that dated right back to the medieval time, that dated back to the sort of utopian medieval Christian church of the pre-Reformation period. So what I want to do, after that very, very brief history lesson, is to bring you around to just a few parts of the church. I want to show you the general architecture, because it's rather fantastic, and also some of the sculpture that adorn the facade, which you see just here behind me. And the reason I want to look at the art and architecture very quickly is because this is regarded today as probably the most unified, stylistically, Gothic revival building in Europe. So, come with me. Now what I'm showing you here is a perspective on the cathedral where we can see its three spires, because this is what dominates the skyline of Cork City. As I say, it's one of the most famous structures in the city. And as you can see, it's extremely tall. I can't fit it all into the one shot. And that's deliberate. It's designed by William Burgess to be seen from a distance, but it's also designed along the lines of original Gothic buildings, which, as I say, date back to 12th century France. And the idea of the height, this actually isn't a very large structure. It's about the size of a normal church. but the height, the idea of it is that it reaches towards the heavens. And in original Gothic buildings, this was very, very deliberate. This made the direct argument for a unification between the heavens and the earth, and raised the stakes for the spiritual experience that could be found within. This was key for inviting pilgrims into the church. Now, this has some very interesting Gothic features, and as I say, quite traditional. If you look at the side of the building, you can see there pointed arches, which were an invention of the Gothic era, a development on round-headed arches, which were more load-bearing, allowed for less materials to be used, so allowed for more space for things like stained glass windows, of which this has very many interesting stained glass windows. Now, unfortunately, we can't go inside to take a look because it's closed at the moment, but maybe we'll be able to do that another day. You can see buttresses in between those windows which support the structure, which is another very traditional feature of Gothic architecture. And so, inasmuch as this is a neo-Gothic, Gothic revival structure of the 19th century, it maintains these features, stained glass, buttresses and pointed arches of the Gothic era. It's also at its best when it's been cleaned, which it hasn't been for quite a few years now. It shines bright white. This is made of Cork limestone, local stone that's been sourced to build this building. Now, we're at the cathedral's west facade, and just before we go up to take a look at the sculptures at the doorways, I just wanted to give you a quick view, and as you can see, it's quite impressive in terms of its height when you're standing here. This was viewed by the architect William Burgess as the most important facade of the building. Of course, it's the front of the building and it's the entrance of the building, but also because we're in the northern hemisphere here, of course it faces west and it's going to receive the setting sun, and so this is the most dramatic. It's going to be lit quite spectacularly by the setting of the sun, and as you can see, the decoration on the front really matches that sense of dramatism. We have 3 entranceways, 3 doorways. During the Gothic period, of course, this was convenient for pilgrims because they could walk in through the left and exit through the right, making easy sort of movement throughout the structure, and then this was emulated in neo-Gothic buildings. The central doorways were usually reserved for special occasions, but of course the 3 arched doorways also refer to the Holy Trinity, so religious symbolism is built in not just to the sculptures but also to the architectural design. We have the famous rose window above the central doorway, which you see on really all French Gothic cathedrals dating from the Middle Ages right up to the Neo-Gothic period in the 19th century. And then, of course, again referring to the Holy Trinity, we have these 3 spires. So a really rather fantastic structure. Now here we are at the back of the cathedral, where you can see this figure sitting up on top of the ambulatory at the back of the building. This is a resurrection angel, gilded in gold, but in Cork here, he's simply known as the Goldy Angel. And he's something of a symbol of the city, with a little interesting story. This figure makes it a very good thing to be a Cork person, because you might be able to see he's holding 2 horns. And legend has it that at the second coming, to announce it, this angel will blow those horns and give the people of Cork advance warning so that they can prepare to enter paradise before anybody else. So he's a great source of pride for the city of Cork, because he makes Cork God's chosen people, gives us advance warning. But there's an interesting story, something that's actually quite shocking and outrageous to go with this angel. At the turn of the millennium, just as the year 2000 approached, somebody actually climbed up, and I'm going to zoom out here so I can show you. Somebody climbed up from the ground about 100 feet to remove the horns from that angel. They unbolted the nails that hold in the arms, and they stole the horns. It's thought maybe in an episode of superstition, with all the rumours surrounding the millennium that the end of the world was coming, somebody may have taken them in order to stop this angel from blowing the horns and announcing the apocalypse. Luckily, just a few days later, they were found actually dumped in a bag in the middle of the city, and they were reinstalled, much to the delight of Cork people. And it's been celebrated ever since. So it's a kind of an interesting story that goes with this lovely little angel. As I say, he's called the Goldy Angel and has become something of a symbol of the city. So I hope that you've enjoyed this quick tour around what for me is one of the more beautiful sites in this city of Cork. We actually passed through this city on the Wild Ireland and Scotland tour, which will take place in 2021, embarking on May 29th. So hopefully some of you will be inspired to join us in Ireland and to see some of these wonderful sites. this certainly dominates the city's skyline and is a wonderful place to visit. So in the meantime, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. Keep well, stay safe and take care, and I will hopefully see you all very soon. So over and out, and goodbye.